Shame me for working a loser job? Fine, I'll just buy your dream car. I, 25-year-old female, work a corporate job at the biggest fast food chain. I won't say the exact title, but I don't work at an office and spend most of my time visiting and coaching stores and associates. Because of this, my entire family is under the impression that I have a loser job, despite the fact that I'm making well over $100,000 a year. I think this perception is exasperated by the fact that I'm typically a frugal person who doesn't tend to surround myself with expensive things. My cousin, 30-year-old male, is a physics professor and has done little to hide the fact that he looks down upon me because of my job. From what I understand, we make similar money, but he's still paying off his doctorate degree, while I never went to college. But he has a much bigger house and mortgage with 2 kids. I'm child-free. Meaning, I have much more disposable income than he does. For the past 3 years, he's been talking about how he really wants his dream car, a Tesla Model X. He's slowly been saving money for it but has nowhere close to the amount of money. He'll joke about how much he wants it by describing how he sees it in his dreams every night in exquisite detail. Well, a couple months back while we were at my mom's birthday party, my cousin made yet another backhanded joke saying I'll never get a real job, and we'll never make real money. This was the last straw. I was so beyond pissed and went back home immediately after the party and ordered a Tesla Model X for myself, exactly to the specifications he has been describing for the past 3 years. A couple of weeks ago it arrived. I picked up my brand new car and brought it home. I didn't tell a single soul in my family that I bought it, but yesterday I made plans to pick up my cousin's son to babysit him, so I knew it was finally time. I rolled up to my cousin's house in my shiny new Tesla Model X, that has been washed and polished just that morning specifically for this meetup. Needless to say, cousin was pissed. He asked me all about it with strained enthusiasm and got visibly more angry the more he noticed it was exactly like the one he wanted. After fumbling around his words and visibly sweating, he tried to make a comment about how it must have been an adventure to find a bank willing to give you a loan so big. I laughed him off and casually told him I wouldn't know since I paid in cash, which is 100% true. He questioned me, so I pulled up a picture on my phone of the title with my name on it. I think that was what broke him because he quickly ended the conversation and went back inside. Now I'm getting messages from his siblings saying how I'm so petty. And while I adore my new Tesla Model X, getting back at my cousin wasn't as satisfying as I thought I'd be. Now I'm really starting to think I'm the jerk. So am I?
I laughed at my sister for giving her baby an anime name, so she blasted me on TikTok and ruined my life. My sister has been obsessed with anime her entire life. As a kid, she would buy all the posters and toys and go to the conventions. I didn't think it was a big deal. I thought she would grow out of it, but now she's an adult and it's really starting to affect her life. When she got her first boyfriend, I was happy for them. They were a perfect match. They both loved anime, and went to all the anime conventions and went on a vacation to Japan. The problem was, my sister got pregnant only after 2 months of seeing him. Although our family was super displeased with this, she was super excited and had the baby. She had a boy and he was born 2 weeks ago. When I asked her what her baby was named, she said his name was Deku, the name of one of her favorite anime characters. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. I told her that her kid is gonna end up getting bullied and she better change his name as quickly as she could. She got super offended, and said that she knows how it feels to be named Deku because she dresses up like the character and fills his room with anime merch. I told her that has nothing to do with his name but I just let it go. I can't help but think he will grow up to hate anime and resent his mother for giving him this stupid name and basically forcing the culture on him. Well, apparently, I'm not the only one who had a problem with this whole anime thing. My sister's husband didn't like it either. In fact, he was so fed up with it, he filed for divorce. Now they are going through this messy divorce because she won't let this anime thing go. I thought I would help my sister by making her see how dumb her anime obsession is and how it's ruining her life. I invited her over for dinner. We chatted for a while. Then I started telling her that maybe she should see her husband's side of things. My sister wasn't having any of it. She said how dare I interfere with her life and marriage. She ended up taking my plate of dinner and throwing it on the ground, glass shattered everywhere. Soon after she kicked me out and told me to never come back. The next day I was scrolling on social media, TikTok to be exact. On my For You page, I see my sister. She made this huge rant about me and changed things around to try and make it seem like I was being offensive against Japanese culture because I didn't approve of her baby naming decision. The post included several pictures of me and all of my personal social media accounts. I had hundreds of messages from angry anime lovers. I tried to defend myself, but every time I tried to explain it, people would twist what I was saying to make it seem like I was being offensive. My own family won't even talk to me anymore. Am I the jerk?
Girls, what's your go-to trick for getting a guy to fall for you? This trick works best if you've got a bit of a bigger chest, but my best friend found an adaptation for flat-chested girlies I'll spill at the end that possibly works even better. But, basically, if you want to push a guy further into his crush or make a move on him without actually doing anything outright, do this. Find a cute tank top, maybe something lacy or nice, but something which shows a lot of cleavage if you look straight down at it, though probably normal and modest if anyone looks at it from the sides. Next, get a bunch of small necklaces. I personally like to use pupil eye necklaces because most hot girls are wearing them right now, and then tangle them up. Intentionally. And make it really hard and annoying to detangle. Walk around like that until you're right next to the guy you want to subtly flirt with, and then start trying to disentangle the necklaces. Make sure to get obviously frustrated with them while you're doing this, so that you can finally act super exasperated and just ask the guy you're with to do it for you. What this does is it gets him to basically have to look down your chest without actually being able to stare. It always flusters guys and usually reminds them that, hey, you're a girl too, and one with a great body at that. And if you're flat? No worries. Just make sure to wear a slightly looser tank or top so that the guy you're with can see a bit of your bra when he looks down to help you fix your necklaces, and make sure that whatever bra you're wearing that day is hot as crap. I'm talking lace, garter, frilly, whatever vibe you think he'll rock with the most. Since it's summer, this trick works super well right now, so try it out and let me know how it goes, girlies. My husband got a paternity test on our daughter, and it came back negative. He accused me of cheating, but the reality was so much worse. I don't know how it happened and I haven't been able to stop crying all day. I've never cheated in my life. I love my husband, we've been together since college and he's the love of my life. He's handsome and kind, and while I've slept with 2 other people, both were before we got together. There is no other potential father for our daughter. We were married already and actively trying for a baby. I don't know why or how it came back negative, but it did, and now he thinks he's not her dad. It's like he becomes someone completely different from the man I married. He was cold, and was constantly suspicious of me. He kept demanding to see my phone, and wouldn't tell me why. At first I showed him without hesitation, but eventually told him I wouldn't anymore unless he explained why. He's been distant with our daughter too. He stays in his office for hours on end, and I don't know what he's doing. I did not cheat. He accused me this morning, saying he'd done the test after realizing that our daughter's brown eyes wouldn't naturally come from ours, which were blue. He told me to get out of the house. I remember being in my daughter's room crying, and feeling terrified. After letting my feelings cool down, I went to have a conversation with my husband. He was out of his room, and we started discussing things. Once again I tried to tell him that I would never cheat on him, but he wouldn't listen. He said that to ever consider staying in this relationship, I would have to get a list of tests done. He said if even a single one came back as negative, or in favor of me cheating, he would leave me. Just like that. For the following weeks, I was at the doctor's constantly. I was determined to prove my innocence, so I went through with his plan. Well, the final test I got done, as a last-ditch effort, was a paternity test for myself. I thought this was ridiculous, as I was the one who gave birth to her, but I did it anyway. Like I said, I was adamant on keeping my relationship. I got the test done, and they told me it would take a few days before they had the results. Those few days went by like a snail in honey. It was taking forever, and every day that passed seemed to be getting worse. Finally, the day came, and we received the results in the mail. I opened the letter, and to my utter horror, it was negative. I was extremely confused, and when I showed it to my husband, he was even more confused. As it turns out,
I'm breaking up with my girlfriend for accusing me of liking young girls. My girlfriend is 24 years old, I am 33. I met her at a meetup event. She started talking to me first and we started dating about a year ago. I always told her that I was a bit insecure about our age difference, but she would always say that she prefers guys a bit older since they are more ready and know what they want. She even told me that she has always dated guys a bit older than her and guys her age are not her type. She also asked me about my ex-wife. I was with my ex for 7 years, but I met her when she was 19 and I was 25. I always felt insecure about that too. But as we grew old, the age difference started to feel less and less of an issue. Now that I am 33, she is 27. Not a big deal. The other day, my girlfriend went through my phone and saw an old picture I took with a girl I went on vacation with right before meeting her. The girl was 28 years old at the time, most likely 29 now as it's been almost a year. She is a lawyer for God's sake. For some reason, my girlfriend believes that the girl looks young, 16 in her opinion. I tell her that could not be further from the truth. The girl is most likely 29 now and I can prove it to her by reaching out to the girl. She says the girl probably lied to me and she can't believe it unless she sees her ID. I told her that's unreasonable, but I know for sure that the girl was 28 when I met her and she is a lawyer. Nobody is going to be a lawyer at 16. She keeps insisting that the girl looks too young when the girl literally has wrinkles and creases on her face. I can't see where she is getting that from. Then she said that because I started dating my ex-wife when she was 19 and I was 25, and now I'm dating her, it's a pattern with me and it seems like I like young girls. That took me aback, not because I gave any value to her statement but because she was the one telling me in the beginning that she wanted a man around my age. I told her I want to break up since I won't be sitting here and letting her accuse me of a highly illegal and immoral crime. She is now trying to be nice and pretend nothing happened. Am I justified to leave? Ex-prisoners, what was the worst thing you saw inside? I spent a couple weeks in county jail. On the first day, when we were all being processed into the facility, we were told very succinctly to never ever even joke about taking your life while in the facility. Kind of like how you just don't say bomb on an airplane anymore. By day 3, I had a good understanding of the other guys I was locked up with. I was physically the biggest of the white guys in our pod, so all the white kids huddled around my table at meals. There was one kid in the group that seemed underdeveloped mentally. He probably had a learning disability among other things, but he essentially acted like a 12-year-old. I knew early on he was going to get himself in trouble because he never stopped talking or moving, and he was rubbing everyone the wrong way. I tried to tell him to chill out and be invisible, but he was not understanding what I was telling him. I had been there a week, when the 12-year-old finally lost his cool completely. He was in the shower, singing and joking around, putting on a performance that went too far, and he pooped on the floor as a joke. After the other guys in the shower grabbed their towels and ran, he proceeded to kick the poop all over the walls and into the other shower stalls. It turned into a big scene, and then when the trustees came in to clean up the poop all over the walls, it turned into an even bigger scene. The whole time, the 12-year-old was locked in a cell near the showers, laughing and joking as other inmates had to clean up his poop and make the shower area sanitary again. State-run facilities have standards after all. The next day, everyone was looking at the 12-year-old with hate in their eyes. Everyone missed their showers the day prior due to the poop incident, and then the kid was still up to his antics at breakfast the next day. Everyone got really cold toward him, even openly mean. I'll admit, I started ignoring him completely after the poop. It took him a day or two to realize he was hated by all, and then his personality changed dramatically. He became sad, despondent, and started talking to the COs because the other inmates wouldn't talk to him anymore. He messed up, and told the COs that he should just take his life and make everyone happy, and that was all it took. They dragged out the blue burrito. This is the scariest thing I had seen in jail. The blue burrito was a 10-foot-long blue foam mat. They laid it out on the floor, forced the 12-year-old to lay on the mat, and then they rolled him up with his arms at his sides into the blue burrito. The two long red belts clipped together at the top and bottom of the burrito, keeping it all nice and tight. This was the protocol at the jail. No counseling, no medical ward. You lose the ability to move. They put that poor guy in the burrito around 8 p.m., dragged him into his cell and left him laying on the floor, wrapped up tight, until breakfast the next morning. Around 8 o'clock a.m. Imagine being unable to move, barely able to breathe, with no end in sight for 12 hours on the floor of your 8x8 cell. My cell was up above his, and I heard him weeping and moaning in agony all night. He didn't say a word to anyone, or look anyone in the eye for that matter for the rest of the time I was there. One night in the blue burrito broke him. My horrible sister-in-law tried to kiss me, so I sued for harassment. Now she's crying and begging for my forgiveness. My sister-in-law is a very nasty person who's flirted with me a lot over the years. I've always told her to stop because it makes me very uncomfortable, so she promises to stop. Well, a few days ago at my mother-in-law's birthday party, my sister-in-law asked me to help her grab some things from the garage. As soon as we walked into the garage, she turned and pressed me up against the door with her whole body. She then started trying to kiss me. I was shocked and didn't think she would ever try to do this. I immediately pushed her off and asked her what the F she was doing. She started giggling and saying she was just doing what we both have been thinking and kept insisting, "You know you want to." I told her she was out of her mind and ran out of there. I went straight to my wife and told her we were leaving. The whole ride home, she was asking me what was wrong. I wasn't sure whether to tell her because I knew how much it was going to hurt, but I also thought sister-in-law would probably try to spin it as me making a move on her, so I knew I had to just say it. I told her everything and she cried the whole way home. For the last several days, sister-in-law has been calling and texting my wife doing exactly what I thought she would do. She even told my wife that I said she was the hottest girl I've ever seen. I had to assure my wife a million times that I did not and would never say such a thing. When I told my brother, he warned me that sister-in-law would try to interfere with my work, and while I initially dismissed it, I figured I would reach out to my boss just in case. I've been working at the same company for almost 10 years, so my boss just reassured me that she knew my real character and would let me know if sister-in-law tried anything. As predicted, sister-in-law did try to contact my boss a couple of days later. Apparently, sister-in-law said that I needed to be fired because I was a predator and claimed to have proof that I assaulted her. My boss said that was a very serious accusation to make and asked sister-in-law to explain what proof she had. Sister-in-law claimed there was a camera that caught the whole incident. My boss asked her to send the video. She got flustered and said the police had it, so my boss asked her to send over a copy of the police report. Then she said, it had a lot of private information in it, so my boss asked her to redact the private information and send it over. Sister-in-law said she didn't feel comfortable with that. My boss told her that she could not take action against an employee based on word of mouth from a stranger. Sister-in-law lashed at her about victim blaming and hung up. Unfortunately, that was not the end of it. Last Wednesday, sister-in-law somehow sent an email from my personal email account with a PP pic to the entire office. My best guess is that I must have left my email logged in on one of my in-laws' devices. She's definitely not smart enough to actually hack me. I know this is completely beside the point, but of course, she chose the weirdest looking PP I've ever seen. It's honestly kind of funny to think about sister-in-law googling gross PP or something and sifting through hundreds of images to find just the right one. I had to apologize to everyone on staff, and thankfully folks were surprisingly understanding. Anyway, at this point it was clear we had to escalate things legally. I really wanted to avoid it, but she forced my hand. My wife and I have a lawyer friend who helped us draft a cease and desist letter outlining her continued harassment, the material, and emotional damage this is causing us. My wife then sent a message to sister-in-law with a copy of the letter and made it very clear that we would pursue criminal or civil proceedings if her harassment continued. My wife's mom then called to her crying and begged her to just let it go and leave her alone. My wife calmly explained that sister-in-law was the only person responsible for this whole situation and that their parents had always enabled her awful behavior. She also said my sister is going to stick you two in a nursing home and steal your money the minute she has the chance, and you deserve it. My wife is firmly settled on cutting off her sister completely. Then sister-in-law sent my brother a message on Facebook to say she is going to leave us alone and to please not sue her. I told my brother not to respond, then just sat and enjoyed the idea that Mary was out there somewhere freaking out about the potential of having to actually face the consequences of her actions. It must be such a strange feeling for her.
Going off the rails, and I have all of his outbursts in writing. I'm also currently under the impression that the coworker is not interested in a relationship with him anymore. And for those who asked, yes, the baby is his by his own word. He still has not told our daughter about any of it, and I have chosen to give him an ultimatum on the matter. I will bring it up one more time when we have our official meeting with our child welfare officer next month, and if he still refuses, I will take it upon myself to tell our daughter the truth. I have also contacted her school therapist and the curator and informed them of the issues she is facing now and the ones still to come. I'm hoping they will offer her some scheduled help since I know she is shy about telling me everything. She is the most important thing in my life, and as sorry as I am for her having to go through this essentially because of my choices, I refuse to take all the blame now, and I'm ready to shift it where it belongs. Update 2. Hello Reddit, it has been months since my original post and update. I finally separated the rest of our finances, stopped paying his bills, and made official agreements on child support and custody, which remains shared for now as he went back on his word to give it to me uncontested. He did not agree to sign an official visitation agreement, but I offered him every other weekend and half of all holidays. He has started to meet our daughter more often, though nowadays she actually visits him on her own free will. It seems that their relationship has gotten a bit better lately, which I'm of course happy about. He has been absolutely terrible towards me though. He started a campaign of passive-aggressive texting after I asked him to be civil. Now every message is overly syrupy and filled with overflowing apologies. I ignored this until he decided to talk to me face-to-face when we went to sign the agreements. He told me his therapist told him to talk to me for closure and to speak his mind, and so he did. He once again just explained to me how hard the last year has been and how I tore the marriage apart. How he was not ready to accept this divorce and never will be. How nothing in his current life is what he wanted or asked for, and considers it an insult if I congratulated him over the upcoming baby, etc. This felt really off considering he had just moved in with his affair partner. He originally tried to hide this too and was evasive but, of course, our daughter found out the next time she visited and also told me. I know it is pointless, but I felt I needed to say something too, so I told him that he completely continues to ignore all my pain and the mental work I had to do over this entire thing, and I can't help the fact that my love evaporated in the process, but he says I didn't even try. He said even my parents were more supportive of him because they had exchanged pleasantries having met briefly a few weeks prior. I told him to look in the mirror and that his little passive-aggressive game was so obvious. Clearly, it hit home because he stopped immediately after. He has also been snooping over my dating life through our daughter and is blatantly jealous and gets very verbally aggressive over it. Now the thing that brought me back to you here tonight is that despite my life having turned so much better in the last few months, and my daughter and I have been happier than in a long while, I fell into an unexpected pit today. He was supposed to have her over this weekend but ended up canceling. The reason he gave me was different from what he gave our daughter, so I knew he lied to someone. Yesterday, he blew up on me over text that originally started as a discussion over our daughter's visits. He started the same old song of me being so petty over such a minor thing as his affair that was apparently not even a real affair at first. He wrote that my parents were right about me being too sensitive, and he knows how low of a blow this is since he has been supporting me through my issues with my parents. I told him how low that was and that he does not get to quantify my pain, and he totally lost his marbles to the point where I had to stop reading his messages because I was afraid I would start to cry in the office. This morning, our daughter ran to me crying happy tears and jumping for joy. Her father had sent her pictures of the newly born little sister. I congratulated the new official older sister, and we gushed over the pictures a little. Throughout the day, my mood has just been awful. I've gotten messages from my family asking how I am, but it's starting to weigh on me. I have been tired and easily irritated. All of a sudden, I felt like I had no one to talk to. No one who would really understand, someone unbiased, an adult to talk to. Those have been my hardest moments in all of this. I lost my best friend when we fell apart, and whenever I feel like I really need to open up and spill my heart, it reminds me of how alone I feel. Is this a normal reaction? I have been fine and very emotionally cut off from him for so long, and somehow the birth of this baby sent me into this sudden nosedive today. I felt like I needed to tell all of this to someone, so thank you for reading.
I put a dead man switch in the company workflow as I was getting bullied into quitting. The following day my wife packed a cream-based soup that really had to be refrigerated. I was passing by the break room to check on my lunch practically every 5 minutes. Somehow it still managed to disappear. I was irate at this point and returned to HR and really blew my top. The best they could do was send a memo around about remembering to check the name on your lunch when you remove it from the fridge, but they made very clear that it was a routine memo and in no way related to my complaints, which were not their jurisdiction, so not an admission of responsibility, because my lunch was my own personal problem. The only suitable alternative to packing a lunch available in the building are these wretched shrink-wrapped ham and cheese sandwiches from a vending machine. They've been marinating in the heat for God knows how long and the bread is as stale as cork board and the meat is rancid and there's gluey mayo smushed into the center. It's a relic of the old office tenants, I'm pretty sure. I vented daily to my wife, but her only idea was to start bringing a regular sandwich and apple again to dissuade the thief and get him to move on to other lunches. So, determined to prevent this low-life scum from downgrading the quality of my lunch, I hatched an elaborate plan. Then the pandemic hit and I forgot all about this whole saga. I worked remotely for months and months. Then we returned, and after all that had happened globally, this was the last thing on my mind. But I got to the break room the first day back, frustrated from having to wear a button-up and tie after months of working in pajamas, sore from my desk chair, and exhausted from small talk, only to find my lunch was gone. This was a particularly sore point because my wife and I divorced between my last lunch and work and the present one. So I did not appreciate being reminded of any past threads involving her. I pretty much flew into a blind rage at that point. Especially seeing that stupid worthless memo about checking the lunch bag names posted in the break room, feeling so helpless and so hungry and so alone as it was me and my lunch against the world. I stormed out and was determined to return the next day with a plan. So, I came in the following day with an empty lunch bag. And I checked closely to be sure no one was watching, and I switched the contents of the HR person's lunch bag into my bag. So now their lunch appeared to be my lunch. They'd packed a regular brown bag, so I just discarded that, and I left, and I waited. I knew this was a pretty big gamble because it was contingent on the theory that the thief was avoiding me while having lunch, but not wary of anyone else. So I would eat out in the open if there were no risk of bumping into me. So I made a big show of going around the office announcing that I was headed out for a meeting and I wouldn't be back until at least 3 p.m. I even went to the trouble of moving my car out of the lot to a space 2 streets over, where I then sat in my car and worked remotely for several hours before sneaking into the building up the back stairway. I then sat in the stairwell just outside the break room, where you can hear chatter that can't be seen, and after about 20 to 30 minutes of waiting, I heard it. The sweetest sound I'll ever hear in the office. HR, what the heck, Kyle, that's my lunch. Lunch thief, nah, it's not your name on the bag. HR, give me that. I'm assuming he grabbed the bag and saw my name. HR, yeah, let's head to my office for a chat. The HR rep later called me in as well and said they were aware of my break room hijinks, but it was obvious that the point still came across loud and clear. They warned me that it was a violation of policy to move another employee's lunch. It took every ounce of self-control for me to keep from retorting I thought our lunches were our personal property and the company was not responsible for them being lost or stolen. They informed me they'd located the thief and things would be handled accordingly. But better than whatever write-up they might be able to issue Kyle, his reveal as the lunch thief occurred in front of the whole break room. So word quickly spread as to who had been stealing everyone's lunches earlier last year, and he is now the office pariah. He was in line for a promotion. The promotion is indefinitely off the table. And I also earned brownie points for exposing him, though more than I'm satisfied with are being attributed to HR. At the end of the day though, I didn't do this for this credit, or even the sweet revenge. People related to a psychopath. What is your creepiest story? My nephew is a crazy little person. Once, the entire family was playing hide and seek. He was around 9. He didn't like where I hid, so he flew into a rage. He tried to hurt me. I grabbed his wrist and twisted just enough to subdue him. He screamed like a maniac. I released him. He then ran into another room stating he needed his Nerf gun to shoot me because he shoots people whenever he's mad. I looked at my sister-in-law and said, seriously, you're okay with this? Her response was that his rage was my fault. I had no right to touch him and that I should have just let him hit me since he's only a boy. I told her, quite firmly, that if her crazy little kid ever even gave the appearance of causing hurt to one of my children that I would put him down like a rabid dog. Fortunately her husband, my wife's parents and everyone else present told her that she was wrong. Her kid was nuts and that this was a serious red flag. Flash forward 2 years. Kid is still crazy, but that's everyone else's problem because he's still just a boy. I'm staying at their house. Things have mostly settled from that prior incident. I wake up very early every morning. So around 4:30, I find myself awake. I don't want to get up and wake up everyone else, so I just sort of lie there and meditate. At around 5:20, the door opens. Thinking it's my kids, who were young at the time and still came to get us early, I kind of just glance up. Then I notice that it's the nephew and he's holding what appears to be an AR-15. Now, I suffer from PTSD from Iraq, so my fight or flight response is triggered. My heart is pounding and I'm basically in survival mode. I wait, I watch. He creeps past the foot of the bed, walks up to my side and raises this rifle up to point the muzzle at my face. So I figure, this is it. I'm going to pass away. Today it ends. The only goal I have for myself right now is to prevent him from harming my wife and kids. He raises it up and the muzzle is a few inches from my face. I reached up, I grabbed the muzzle and I pushed as hard as I could, sending the butt into the little kid's face. His nose is wounded, he's crying, he's screaming about how he's going to end me, how I'm finished. So now everyone is awake. Lights are flipped on and I see that it's a toy rifle made to look like an AR-15. Apparently, this little kid was planning to stick the muzzle in my face and pull the trigger to scare the crap out of me with flashing lights and electronic firearm sounds. My sister-in-law was really mad. Her chosen narrative is that I'm a mentally unstable lunatic who is a danger to all children. She calls the cops. She insists, despite the protestations of my wife, that she's having me arrested and charged with child mistreatment. Police arrive. Interviews take basically the whole day. I'm a little worried that, getting arrested aside, I might not be able to leave and go home the next day as planned because these cops might not be done with their investigation. Fortunately, it didn't play out that way. See, this little kid wasn't just crazy around me. He was crazy everywhere and had been for years. The police had a file on him because the school was required to call the police every time he threatened to bring a firearm to school, which was often. I laid out my version of events much like I did here. I didn't see him and have a flashback thinking he was an insurgent. I saw him, I knew what he is going through his head, and I wanted to try to prevent him from ending my family. They did let me go home on schedule, and a week later the detective called me to let me know there would be no charges. He also told me that his interview with my nephew was chilling and he hopes that my sister-in-law pulls her head out of the sand and gets the kid some help. I told him she won't ever, and when he's 30 years old and on trial she'll be crying and saying he's just a boy. Hopefully he doesn't hurt anyone, but I know the odds are stacked against that hope.
My lesbian daughter is trying to force our whole family to dye our hair for Pride Month, so I gave her a brutal reality check. So my 15-year-old daughter has recently come as out lesbian. She is our only child, and my husband and I were extremely supportive of her. We have since stayed up many nights, doing research on how to better support your child after coming out. But our daughter almost seems to have gotten a whole lot worse attitude-wise. Since coming out, she has made every single conversation she has about gay people, about the discrimination they face, which are real issues and I can't deny that. My main problem is when she tells us to try harder to be allies to her. At first my husband and I tolerated this kind of things from her, but as time went on it has become harder and harder to keep her mouth shut. It doesn't help that if anyone doesn't agree with her on a topic, even if it's anything not at all related to her sexuality, she is quick to call homophobia. My husband and I have become victims of these things a lot, and it hurts a lot when the daughter that you love dearly and truly support claims that you are homophobic and don't love her. It all boiled over yesterday night during dinner. It is Pride Month, and my daughter has dyed her hair in order to support it. Cool, I have nothing against it. I think Pride is a good cause to support, and my husband and I support it myself. We promised my daughter we would attend the parade with her a few weeks ago. Well, last night my daughter started talking about Pride, and how important it was for everyone to do as much as they can in order to show support. She then went on to say that she thinks it's disgusting how a straight person will not openly show support during Pride, and compared it to racism. We got into a conversation about it, and during it our daughter told us she would like us to dye our hair for the month of Pride. She said it can be any color, as long as the color is on the rainbow. I told my daughter that as much as we support her, my husband and I were not going to do that. We told her we don't see how us dyeing our hair was going to do anything really. She blew up, calling us homophobic, saying that we don't support her, saying we're anti-gay and so on. My husband was the one who actually had enough and he yelled stop so loud that even I got scared for a second. Our daughter instantly got quiet but I could see she was still angry. My husband started speaking and told her to check her privilege. She tried asking how she was privileged, and my husband replied. He stated that she is gay, and is fortunate enough to live in a country where the LGBTQ community are not seen as animals. He told her that she gets to prance around calling people names if they disagree with her and call homophobia if she doesn't like something. My husband then pulled something up on his phone. He told my daughter to look. It was a video of gay people in less progressive countries speaking about how they were treated, followed by a video of a gay person being punished. The video was horrible. Once it ended, my husband told her that this was the reality for a lot of gay people in the world, and the fact she screams homophobia at us for not dyeing our hair during Pride Month is incredibly insensitive to gay people everywhere else in the world. He told her that not dyeing our hair isn't homophobia, and if she thinks she is then she has been brainwashed. My daughter left without saying much, and has not spoken a lot to us today either. I know we need to talk to her, but we don't know how. I purposely farted in front of a guy at the gym because he wouldn't take no for an answer. So a few things: I go to the gym to work out and decompress. I don't see it as a place to be social, and I wear large over-ear headphones. I was at the gym and just finished one of my sets for deadlifts, when a guy walks over. This is something I'm used to, despite how much I dislike it, but he starts talking to me and I'm able to pick up on his flirting. I'm polite and waiting for the proper moment to end the conversation. When he asks for my number I decline. He keeps talking and going into the usual shtick of why not? And come on. At that point I'm very uncomfortable and also annoyed, because my workout timer has already gone off and it's past the time for me to start my next set. I put on my big girl pants and tell him he's making me uncomfortable and I just want to finish my workout. Does he leave? No. He keeps talking now, going on about how he didn't mean it like that and he's not a bad guy. No actual apology to be found. Now, during this entire interaction I've had to fart. I was being polite and holding it in until he left, but seeing as he's not leaving I start thinking, well, I know a way to get him to leave. As he's still talking I let it rip. It's silent but rather smelly. It only takes about 2 seconds for him to catch a whiff. He stops talking and the face he makes is too much that I have to bite my lip to stop laughing. That's when he gave me a look of, are you serious? And then finally leaves, and I'm left alone to finish my workout. Definitely a win in my book.
I admitted that my parents and niece are the reason I left, so they ruined my life and reputation. I'm a 29-year-old male and I have a niece, 19-year-old female. When my niece was a little kid, she was unbelievably mean and was downright disrespectful. If no one was around, she would scream and cuss at me, and would do things to me that she would have never done if our parents or grandparents were around. She would spit on me, throw stuff at me, humiliate me in front of my girlfriend, and purposely spill stuff on my clothes. Whenever I told her to leave me alone, she would run to grandma and tell her I was being mean and I would instantly get in trouble. A month before I turned 18, I told my parents that I really wanted to visit New York City over the summer, and she agreed. 2 days before we were supposed to leave, I already got my bags packed and they saved up, booked the tickets, and we were all ready to go. I was so excited that I couldn't even put it into words because this was my first time leaving North Carolina. The next day my parents informed me that we couldn't go because they had planned a huge surprise party for my niece, whose birthday was 2 days before mine. They told me that they also miscalculated and going to New York City was a lot more expensive than they initially thought. But, I was told that my niece's birthday party was over $10,000. All of the money they saved up for us to go to New York City was all spent on their party. When I asked them why they couldn't just cancel it instead, they got very mad. My entire family told me I'm an entitled brat and to stop being so selfish. They never canceled the party and I heard all about it from my niece's social media. I was tired of it. 3 months later I packed my bags and moved to New York City. I went to college there and never left after graduating. About 2 weeks ago I got a phone call from an uncle about a family reunion. I thought it would be nice for my sons to meet some of their family members, and my family had never met my wife before, so we went. As soon as I got there I saw my niece. She acted the same as she did before. My aunt asked why I moved to New York City, to which my mother answered for me, saying that it was so I could go to college. I started laughing uncontrollably, and revealed the truth. I told them about everything I went through, and how I was looked at as a stupid entitled brat. My niece was always right and I was always wrong. I told them about all the times she spit on me, pushed me, and called me names, and nobody was ever on my side or cared about how I felt. That is the real reason I packed my bags and moved as far away as I could, and why nobody heard from me in over 10 years. My family was absolutely appalled. I was expecting some kind of apology. Instead, they did the opposite. They immediately escorted me out, but not my wife. They flipped the entire story and told my wife about everything I have done to my niece over the years. They told her I was the one who did everything, and not her. Every story was completely flipped in favor of my niece. My wife actually believed them. It has been 2 weeks and I haven't heard from her. She took the kids and cut all contact with me. I'm getting messages from her family and all of my friends about how much of a monster I am. After all of these years they still side with my niece over the years. Safe to say I won't be seeing them ever again.
My dad stole my college scholarship money and threatened to take his own life because I was angry at him. I said go ahead. For context, I am currently a college freshman and I'm on a full ride to my university. Every semester, I get a check sent to my house to pay off my housing costs, which is about $9,000. My unemployed father got evicted from my old address because he wasn't paying rent, so my family started living in a hotel. I was questioning how they were paying for the hotel, considering it was $150 a night. Turns out, my father used my college check to cash out and pay for the hotel for 2 months. I begged him to pay off my college housing costs for 2 months straight. He lied to me, telling me that it was attached to some funds, which were hard to get out. Very confusing, but keep in mind I have absolutely zero financial literacy, and my father never went into depth. I brushed it off, hoping that everything would work for the best. My college housing gave my father a deadline to pay off housing costs, November 1st. I was stressed for 2 months, unable to eat well, sleep, socialize, etc. If my dad doesn't pay it off, I may or may not have to drop out. When the deadline hit, I called my dad and asked him why he hadn't paid off my housing costs. He finally revealed that he used the check on the hotel they were living in. I was furious and I started interrogating him like a prosecutor. He blamed the family for being responsible for using my college money, not himself, and also blamed me. He lent me allowance money for 2 months, telling me that it was for my relatives when it was actually for my $9,000 housing check. I asked him why he would do this and he said that he didn't want to stress me out. I cried, telling him I worked way too hard in high school for me to drop out. I said that he owed me an apology 3 times over the phone, but he refused because he thought he had done nothing wrong since he was providing for the family. I asked him again and he said sorry in a mocking voice. I told him that he was full of crap and he started saying that he wants to take his own life and it will all be on me. This is not the first time he has done that. I told him to do it and I hung up. My mom called me and I informed her about the situation. She told me to apologize to my dad and I told her, as psychotic as I may sound, I have no remorse, especially after what he did. My mom threatened to disown me but I somehow mended things with them for 3 weeks. It is currently Thanksgiving break and my father still didn't pay off my check and he said that he would get money Saturday to pay it off. My mom told me again to apologize to him after he paid my housing costs, and I said I would avoid conflict, but I think I'm way too stubborn to apologize, especially because I genuinely think I have nothing to be sorry for. My dad never fully apologized and made a joke out of me to the family. My ungrateful husband cheated on me after he got rich, so I sold his business. My husband and I have known each other for the past 10 years. When we first got together, my husband was in a critical financial state. He was drowning with different types of debts and had to pay off his house, but struggled. Without hesitation, I was there for him and gladly helped him every time he asked for money. The same routine followed for 3 years and we were barely living from paycheck to paycheck. Going into our 4th year, my husband went all in on his new business idea. He would stay up every night working hard. He barely gave me attention but asked me to bear with him while he was working on a project. I thought it would be best to support him and let him do his thing. I held a lot of anger within myself because he got so invested in his project that he quit his job and started working full-time on the project. He would let his stress out on me by saying I'm so effing tired of this life and you're doing nothing to help, even though I never complained about him not bringing a single penny in for months. One day when I woke up from a stressful sleep, my husband greeted me with good news and said that his project was finally paying off. He said how he signed his first client and that he would be getting paid $3,000 for the month. From that point on, his business only grew along with his net worth, but I never imagined that his business would lead to the problems it did. A few years after his monumental success, I stopped working and my husband was perfectly okay with it. For my birthday last year, my husband gifted me half of his marketing agency's ownership, as a way to forever tie us. I was very grateful to him but told him that I wouldn't be taking any revenue just so he could make sure I wasn't stealing. He agreed with me, thinking that giving me half of the ownership was a good move, but it was anything but that. Due to our previous agreement, I was forced to ask for money from my husband every time I needed to buy something. After months of asking, my husband suddenly erupted and confronted me for being a gold digger. I told him, how can you be accusing me when I've been with you at your lowest? And replied by saying, because you're asking for money too often. I couldn't believe that money was going to be the root of our problems. I told him how I was ready to get a job just for him to stop calling me a gold digger. I reminded him, you wouldn't be here today if I didn't cover all of your debts and loaned you money whenever you asked for some. Sudden rage filled his face and he smashed my favorite set of plates on the floor. Never take credit for my success because I was the one working all night while you slept. He then left the house and I didn't hear from him until the next morning. I woke up with a text saying I left for Miami for a few weeks. Let me know when you calm down and I might return. His text infuriated me and made me cry. I couldn't believe money corrupted him so much to leave me and make him question his return. The next few days I spent alone with my thoughts and thinking about how I could return to the man who loved me so much. I tried calling and texting him numerous times but would never pick up. Finally, when he responded, it was the most gut-wrenching and heartbreaking text. My manipulative boyfriend recently found out that his ex just got engaged and has not stopped literally crying since. So my ex went effing insane after I moved back home. I blocked him from essentially everything, changed all of my passwords and deactivated my Facebook, so he had no way of reaching me aside from literally driving to my parents' house to see me. Apparently he started sending messages to my friends asking to use their Skype accounts to talk to me. He told them that I stole some things from him when I moved out and he wanted them back. I got a few phone calls from my friends asking me about this. They told me that they knew that I didn't steal anything from him because that's not like me at all, but they wanted to know why he was so desperate to contact me. I wasn't ready to tell the whole story, so I told them that I didn't know what was going on, but asked them to not give them their Skype accounts by any means. A few days after that, the phone calls started. All from a few different numbers that I didn't recognize. I didn't pick any of them up, but one day I'd have about 20 missed calls from one number, then another 20 from a different number. I had to set my phone to only allow calls from specific numbers, otherwise it would go straight to my voicemail. Even if he couldn't reach me, he succeeded in making me feel pretty isolated. After the 5th day of the phone calls, I broke down and told my mom everything that happened. She didn't say much, she mostly let me talk. Afterward she told me that I made the right decision but that there's absolutely no reason why I should be going through this alone. She said that she didn't want to push me to tell her what happened until I was ready, but that the best thing that I could be doing right now is spending time with people that love and support me. So after going with me to get my phone number changed, she encouraged me to start calling my friends and telling them what happened, and to just hang out with them more in general. I had it stuck in my head that everyone would side with my ex and tell me that I made a terrible mistake, that his intentions were good, and I blew things out of proportion by insinuating that he only proposed because his ex-girlfriend got engaged. But I was actually overwhelmed by my friends' responses. Apparently my ex had been telling everyone that we broke up because I had major jealousy issues over his ex, but once they heard my side of the story, I was actually shocked by how many of them said that it made sense. They've all told me that I've done the right thing and that they'd back me up no matter what. I just felt this huge sense of relief and have been making an effort to go out more. I will be honest, though. There are times where I wonder if I was wrong. Sometimes I think that maybe my ex had been grieving over his old relationship and proposing to me was his way of starting over. Sometimes I think that I turned down the only marriage proposal that I'll ever get. And sometimes I think that maybe I should have accepted, because I loved him and you don't often find people that you truly love. But then on the days that I'm feeling wiser, I remind myself of how bizarre our last few weeks together were, how I always knew deep down that I was second best for him, and how he's been behaving since we broke up. I've never seen him so unstable. My manipulative boyfriend recently found out that his ex just got engaged and has not stopped literally crying since. So my ex went effing insane after I moved back home. I blocked him from essentially everything, changed all of my passwords and deactivated my Facebook, so he had no way of reaching me aside from literally driving to my parents' house to see me. Apparently he started sending messages to my friends asking to use their Skype accounts to talk to me. He told them that I stole some things from him when I moved out and he wanted them back. I got a few phone calls from my friends asking me about this. They told me that they knew that I didn't steal anything from him because that's not like me at all, but they wanted to know why he was so desperate to contact me. I wasn't ready to tell the whole story, so I told them that I didn't know what was going on, but asked them to not give them their Skype accounts by any means. A few days after that, The phone calls started. All from a few different numbers that I didn't recognize. I didn't pick any of them up, but one day I'd have about 20 missed calls from one number, then another 20 from a different number. I had to set my phone to only allow calls from specific numbers, otherwise it would go straight to my voicemail. Even if he couldn't reach me, he succeeded in making me feel pretty isolated. After the 5th day of the phone calls, I broke down and told my mom everything that happened. She didn't say much, she mostly let me talk. Afterward, she told me that I made the right decision but that there's absolutely no reason why I should be going through this alone. She said that she didn't want to push me to tell her what happened until I was ready, but that the best thing that I could be doing right now is spending time with people that love and support me. So after going with me to get my phone number changed, she encouraged me to start calling my friends and telling them what happened, and to just hang out with them more in general. I had it stuck in my head that everyone would side with my ex and tell me that I made a terrible mistake, that his intentions were good, and I blew things out of proportion by insinuating that he only proposed because his ex-girlfriend got engaged. But I was actually overwhelmed by my friends' responses. Apparently my ex had been telling everyone that we broke up because I had major jealousy issues over his ex, but once they heard my side of the story, I was actually shocked by how many of them said that it made sense. They've all told me that I've done the right thing and that they'd back me up no matter what. I just felt this huge sense of relief and have been making an effort to go out more. I will be honest, though. There are times where I wonder if I was wrong. Sometimes I think that maybe my ex had been grieving over his old relationship and proposing to me was his way of starting over. Sometimes I think that I turned down the only marriage proposal that I'll ever get. And sometimes I think that maybe I should have accepted, because I loved him and you don't often find people that you truly love. But then on the days that I'm feeling wiser, I remind myself of how bizarre our last few weeks together were, how I always knew deep down that I was second best for him, and how he's been behaving since we broke up. I've never seen him so unstable.
My crazy wife kept harassing and stalking our daughter, which resulted in her getting arrested. She's now mad at me for not backing her up. My wife and I have a 23-year-old daughter, who is not too close to us. The reason behind it is my wife. My wife has been obsessive about our daughter all her life. She had phone trackers on my daughter's phone till the day she moved out. She would follow her to shops, stalk wherever she was at, and in one case came into a cinema that my daughter was at just to make sure that our daughter was where she said she was. Due to this, our daughter doesn't really tell us about her social or love life, even when we ask, she just gives us vague answers. My wife hates this. She feels like she is entitled to know about our daughter's private life, even intimacy life details. Well, it turns out that for about 6 months, our daughter has been seeing a 43-year-old man. I don't know if they are dating or friends with benefits. I'm not sure, but my wife found this out when she was helping our daughter move into her house. She had gotten a copy of her key, so when my wife wants, she can go into her house, and she doesn't need to call our daughter to let her know, she can just walk in. At first, I didn't know about the key, but when I found out, I was in shock. My wife found out about my daughter dating the older guy by secretly following my daughter around to see where she goes and tracking her phone. She followed them back to her house, and she demanded to know what was going on. However, my daughter told her to leave, she refused, and my daughter said if she didn't leave, she would call the police. She left, came home, and told me everything. Obviously I don't want my daughter to date a man who's 20 years older than her. I think it's gross, but I also think that what my wife did was wrong and an invasion of privacy. However, my wife told me that she's her mother, and because she's only 23, our daughter's business is also her business. I told my wife that our daughter is an adult and lives on her own. If she wants to do this, we may not agree with it, but there is nothing we can do. My wife didn't agree and said, no, that doesn't mean she can date an older man if she wants. I didn't want to fight with my wife over this, so I just said, okay. My wife continued to stalk her and enter her house without asking, and she also stalked and threatened to injure the older man because of this. Because of this, my daughter called the police, and when I told the cops about the situation, they understood it to some extent and gave my wife a warning. They told us what she did was stalking and harassment, and that we needed to leave our daughter alone if she called them again. They would have to arrest my wife. After this, my wife continued to harass our daughter and her boyfriend. She showed up on her dates at her house. My daughter then got a restraining order against her mother. I told my wife she needed to stop, all she was doing was making her want to be with the man even more. I told my wife she was breaking the law and that if she continued this, she might go to jail. She asked me if we should give her an ultimatum. Her idea was to tell her that if she continued to see the man, we would never talk to her again, and she wouldn't be a part of our family. My wife said our daughter could be part of our family after she broke up with him. I told her this wasn't a good idea because if he is abusive, we shouldn't push her away, we should still keep a line of communication open, and I told her we shouldn't use our parental influence to try and force her into doing what she does or doesn't want to do. After I told my wife that, she said, so we should just allow our daughter to do whatever she wants, and we should just accept that? I got frustrated, and I just said whatever and left. I texted my daughter, asking her if I could see her. She said okay, and we met for lunch. I asked her why she was seeing a man old enough to be her father, and she told me she was just into much older men. I tried telling her about the red flags of dating someone older, but she still wanted to do it. I told her that I didn't agree with the relationship, but I would support her and be there for her if she needed it. My daughter said, thank you. After that, I told my wife about the meeting with our daughter, and my wife got mad at me for doing that. She said, we are supposed to have a united front. I told her there was nothing we could do except be there for her, but my wife is still adamant about doing something. I told her our daughter got a restraining order against her. If she keeps this up, she will go to jail. I tried telling her that, and the cops who came by our house tried telling her that, but she still didn't listen. She went to my daughter's house and basically broke in and yelled at our daughter, telling her, "You better end this relationship now. I don't care what you want or what you are into." Because of the yelling, one of our neighbors called the police, and my daughter told the cops everything. The cops asked if my daughter wanted to press charges, and she did, so my wife was arrested. She was charged with violating a restraining order, breaking and entering, assault, and harassment. I paid my wife's bail, but she still has a trial. My wife claimed that the cops were racist for arresting her. We are a black family. I got frustrated, and I told her no. She was arrested for breaking multiple laws. I told her she should have lied to me and wouldn't be in this situation, but she got mad at me. My wife also got mad at me for telling her it was her fault she got arrested.
My delusional husband gave me peanuts despite the fact I am allergic to them and refuses to apologize, so I cooked him an amazing meal with a special surprise. So my husband is one of those people who believes that the power of the mind is enough to combat anything. He has genuinely tried to tell me that instead of going to chemo, I should advise my grandma to read meditation books and really believe that she is not sick. That's the kind of person he is. He believes in exposure therapy even with things like allergies and truly thinks he can heal himself simply using the power of the mind whenever he is. He gets mad at me for going to the doctors when I'm sick, instead of meditating with him in order to get better. One thing that has been the main struggle with him is to get him to understand that exposure therapy will not heal my allergies. Specifically, my peanut allergy. I have been deathly allergic to peanuts all my life, and cannot eat them. Yet he claims I can, as apparently he has watched many videos and read many stories of people overcoming deathly peanut allergies with exposure therapy. I have always told him no. Well, yesterday he took it upon himself to prove me wrong. I came home from work and he surprised me with a batch of homemade cookies. I was excited, but asked why he made them since he is lactose intolerant. He said it was a surprise for me. I was excited and kissed him, but before I ate one I asked for the ingredients, and he stated they were just normal cookies. He then got me to smell one. I did, and I thought they smelled off, but didn't say anything. My husband proceeded to break off a tiny amount of a cookie. A minuscule amount, which I thought again was odd. He then almost seemed to inspect it, then gave it to me. I ate the tiny piece, and almost immediately I started to feel hot. I could feel myself break into a sweat and my throat starting to slowly swell. I told my husband something was wrong, and when he saw me start to double over onto a chair and grab my neck and chest, he called the ambulance. He then used the EpiPen. There is a hospital near us, so thankfully they came quickly. I was discharged after a few hours and I was more or less okay. I asked my husband to explain himself and he started off by saying that I shouldn't get mad. He put peanuts into the cookie, trace amounts of them, to start my exposure therapy. He figured I would never agree to it myself, so he did it without my knowledge. I couldn't believe it. I yelled at him that I could have died, he could have unalived me, had my EpiPen not been on me, who knows what would have happened. I called him irresponsible, stupid and childish. I told him he's lucky I'm not going to press charges. He begged me to forgive him but still said that he was sorry for what happened but not for what he did. I said I needed space and went upstairs. I locked the bedroom behind me and sat in silence crying for what felt like hours. I knew I was going to divorce him, but I wanted to get back at him too. I decided that for the next 24 hours, I'm going to act like everything was fine, and serve him an amazing meal. That was my revenge. I came out of the bedroom and said that I forgave him. That I had thought about and that I had been letting my peanut allergy control my life. That I ate trace amounts of peanuts and ended up surviving. I sweet-talked him into thinking it was all okay. The next night I made him dinner. I served some fantastic chicken and homemade wholemeal bread as well as pasta. I told him I wanted this dinner to celebrate our new start and my start of exposure therapy and opening myself up to the power of the mind. He started eating the pasta and the chicken immediately and we finished the meal roughly 30 minutes later. 15 minutes later he started complaining about his stomach being sore. That's when I told him, oh yeah, I lathered the chicken in buttermilk beforehand and the pasta was drenched in butter before I cooked it. I also put some cheese sauce into the preparations of the dish. I know you're lactose intolerant, but this is just exposure therapy. I did say I was willing to start doing it. He looked at me with a look of shock and horror. He called me a liar, and not even a minute later he ran upstairs. He stayed in the toilet creating a nuclear warhead, and as he was in there I packed clothes for a few nights. I then drove to my sister where I am currently staying. I have been here a few hours and my soon-to-be ex-husband is bombarding me with calls ever since I sent a text to him stating I wanted a divorce.
I found out how my girlfriend has been paying for my cancer treatments. I want to end things but I can't afford to. My girlfriend has been my rock and quite frankly the reason I have survived this long. When I got diagnosed with cancer I was dirt poor with no way to pay for my treatments. Luckily for me, my girlfriend swooped in like a guardian angel and offered to cover the extra costs. I was hesitant at first as I didn't want to put her under financial strain, but she insisted that her career was really taking off. I put my pride aside and took her up on it. I began treatment that same week and over time things were looking up. She never made me feel ashamed for my lack of contribution, but as time went on I began to wonder how she was affording everything. It started with a new car, a Chevrolet Corvette to be exact. Then a few months later she bought a house, no down payment, just flat out bought. This house was big and had some serious acres. I knew it cost a hefty penny, but she let me move in rent-free. Any time I'd ask her about it she'd vaguely reply that she signed another client and got a nice bonus. However, things started to get weird. When we'd be out in public random people would approach her asking for a picture. She'd show them away saying they must have confused her for someone and then act like it never happened. Her birthday is coming up so I'm planning to surprise her with a dinner date. I had saved up for a few weeks to be able to afford her favorite Michelin star restaurant that she and her friends frequently visit. The only issue was her schedule. To get around this I planned on checking her work laptop so I could see when she would be free. I knew she was out on a meeting this evening so that would be my chance to check. And check I did. However, what I saw was far from what I was expecting. As I was going through her schedule I found some strange appointments like pictures for John, FaceTime with Kevin, and what really caught my eye, undies for Peter. Then a notification popped up. It was a payment of $25 labeled as new subscription. I clicked into it and my jaw dropped when I saw what website opened. OnlyFans. My girlfriend had been paying for my cancer treatment with dirty money. My stomach sank as I closed all the tabs on her laptop so she wouldn't be suspicious. I felt defeated as I thought she was the one, but this was not something I was willing to accept. I called my best friend and told him there was something I needed to urgently talk to him about. We arranged to meet up tonight. I'm hoping he can help me navigate this situation.